Starting to really hate the phrase best practices. So here I am back again, but today I wanted to talk about this idea of best practices. Now I know I'm a hypocrite. I have a couple of courses on Pluralsight called Best Practices, but I've tried to avoid this idea for a long time. If you've seen me speak at conferences or maybe watched my courses, you'll know that I really hate the idea of dogma, of doing these because it's quote unquote the right thing to do. It's hard. It's hard when you're a developer trying to figure out the best way to do something so we can all be on the same page. This has started things like software craftsmanship and being more rigorous about how you're building your projects, including unit tests and system tests and white glove tests and all of that, right? Code reviews, it's all good stuff. But this idea that there's one best way to do anything is ludicrous. It's silly, and it doesn't really work in the real world. I could write all these courses, I could talk about all these best practices to tell you that this is the one true way to do anything, and we'll end up kind of where we're at today. Developers, especially young developers, get caught up in making sure they're doing it the right way so that someone doesn't come along and complain to them or say, you never knew what you were doing to begin with. Oh my God, why were you doing it this way? We have coding styles, we have project structures, we have code reviews, and it's all stuff you should know and you should take advantage of. I'm not saying any of this is a bad idea, but what I am saying is be easier on yourself about it. The reality is most companies I've ever worked for, and I think most companies out there, have had to weigh business decisions versus engineering decisions. And this is always a push-pull in an organization. It's just difficult in a lot of places to really get the idea of, oh yeah, these are the folks that help me pay the developers in the company, right? The people making the sales calls that are making your life a lot harder are also bringing in the dollars that are paying you what you're worth. And this is a huge thing. Now, almost all of what I'm talking about isn't one practice or another. What I'm really talking about that there is one best way. If we all get stuck in the dogma of doing something the same way every time, software development will start to become rote and stale. You imagine if we got stuck in the way we did software development back in large monolithic desktop applications, we wouldn't have grown any. And it's because some people are willing to take those risks. So be one of those risk takers. But also at the end of the day, remember, most of what we build, we're building to solve normal people's problems. We're not building anything to solve technologists' problem. The key for me is that software, no matter how you're building it, no matter who you're building it for, is an exercise in compromise. This may be a little better, but this may work in more situations. I may want to tune my application to this sort of philosophy, but at the end of the day, I need to get it out if it takes longer to build. So this is the classic program manager or project manager problem. And that is when you're building something, you want to be able to ship it to people. Software isn't worth anything if it's just in source control. It's only worth something once it actually builds something and reaches users, no matter what kind of users they are. When someone in your sales department comes up to you and goes, I'm trying to make this sale, but we need to make this change to your software, and you know in your heart of heart that that's going to increase technical debt, you don't have to fight them 100%, because ultimately that contract may be the difference between downsizing your organization and not downsizing your organization. Certainly that's not always that dire, but understand what we're really doing. We're trying to build and add value to organizations one way or another by increasing their productivity, by increasing their accuracy, by increasing their sales. Like all of that happens in most organizations. We rarely work for organizations that are doing work just for the common good. Now, if you're in one of those situations, you don't have timelines, you can go ahead and build out and make sure you're doing all the right things every single time. Awesome. This is really geared at everyone else who's afraid they're not doing things in the right way. Don't be afraid of your code. Stop worrying about what the best practice is and look at practices that work well and work well in your domain, because this is going to be completely different. A good example of this is what's sort of happened in database development in the last 10 years. In that time, relational data stores have sort of been, oh, that's for old people. That's the boomer way to store data. I want to do it in this NoSQL way, or I want to do it in this graph way, or I want to do it in this other way because it makes more sense to me. And it does. There are places for it, but understanding that relational databases aren't the best in every case is the same as saying NoSQL is not the best in every case, right? You have to understand what you're tuning for. Are you tuning for read access or write access? Are you tuning for consistency or eventual consistency? Those are the trade-offs I'm talking about, that we can't get bogged down into this is the one great way to do things. Single page applications have gone through the same thing. Is Angular approach right? Is React right? Is Vue right? And the answer is yes in most of those cases, right? For the right skill set, use case, development speed, all of them can be the right for the right project. We don't have to have a winner. We don't have to have, this is the best game. This is the best programming language. This is the best platform. Oh my God, you're still using a PC. Oh my God, you're using a Linux box. Who cares how you get the job done? Get the job done. Enjoy what tools you have. And the more tools you use, the more likely you're going to be doing the right thing. This is another place that just makes me crazy, and that is this idea that C#'s the best language and JavaScript is the worst language, right? By the way, there's Java out there, there's Python, there's Haskell, everyone should get their hands into a lot of languages. I wish I had worked with more languages than I have. I need to learn Go, I need to learn Dart, I need to dig more into Python. Those are all things that I wish I knew better because it helps me figure out problems in other languages. I've learned things from JavaScript that I want to apply to C#. I've learned things in C# that I want to apply to other languages I'm using. Don't get too married to your tools. They're just your tools. Your familiarity with them isn't your key as a developer. You're not a mechanic. You're an artist. So let's get away from the idea of best practices and think more pragmatically on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't agree with this, please say so in the comments because I think I'm right. Thanks for watching, and I'll have another one of these up in a couple of weeks.